What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and today we're going to be taking a look at my very early free agency prediction. So I think there'll be plenty of like tags and teams re-signing players, and not a lot of changes from some of the players we're going to talk about. But I'm going to take my best to stick my neck on the line and look at players that are set to become free agents and where, maybe aside from their home team, would be a great landing spot. So I'm going to go through all the top players per each individual position. Some I'm just going to brush over and just give you my quick takes. I don't want this video to be super long. And others we're going to try to make some moves. We're going to try to add some parity to this league and move some big time stars around. So really looking at this, there's only one big, this is crazy. Could it happen? Maybe. Will it happen? Most likely not. But to let you know, it will be about LeVeon Bell. But we're going to go from quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, and defensive backs. So let's jump into it. First, starting with the QBs. And first up with the quarterbacks, it's Kirk Cousins. And I think Kirk Cousins is going to go to the Denver Broncos. Even with Nick Foles and the trade bait with the Philadelphia Eagles, I still think Kirk Cousins will be the most coveted, available, potential quarterback to sign. And it's just the mantra of the Broncos to get your... don't think super long-term. We saw it with Elway when he brought in Peyton Manning. Sure, he knew he wasn't going to get the franchise quarterback. He's only going to get him for a short amount of time, pretty much a rental, but he knew he could win it during that time. And you look at the Denver Broncos roster, they're not getting any younger. Emmanuel Sanders is getting old. Demaryius Thomas is getting up there. That defense is getting old. They need to win right now, and I think with that mentality, Kirk Cousins is the guy that John Elway is going to covet. Obviously, I think Minnesota Vikings could be another potential team to land, but I think Kirk Cousins is going to land here in Denver. Looking at the other quarterbacks, obviously Drew Brees is going to go back to New Orleans. That's why we didn't talk about him. Jimmy Garoppolo will get a deal with San Francisco, obviously. We have A.J. McCarron. I think he will try to go to the Cleveland Browns. That was a trade on deadline day that didn't quite go through. We get Teddy Bridgewater. I think Bridgewater will go back to the Minnesota Vikings. Case Keenum, I think he will be the bridge quarterback perhaps for the Jets, as it looks like Josh McCown might retire. And then we have Sam Bradford, who I think is going to mull. I think Bradford might be that guy that remains on the free agency wire until a team needs a hurt quarterback. See what I did there? Needs a hurt quarterback. Until a team needs a quarterback because their starter got hurt, I think Bradford might be that quick-term option. So those are the quarterbacks. Now let's take a peek at the running. Moving to the running backs, LeVeon Bell is the most interesting name. I think he will stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but if they want to play with fire, he said he's not going to play under the tag, and they want to try to tag him and do some bullshit like that. If he's not going to be a member and wants to maybe, do like a Carson Palmer Bengals where he's like, retired, I'm going to retire, you trade me. If he's not on the Steelers, I think the Detroit Lions would be the perfect team for LeVeon Bell to go to. He's the perfect running back for a Jim Bob Cooter offense. He's theoretic, except he can do that and, stay on the field for all 3 downs and run between the tackles. And I think that if I'm a Lion fan, this would definitely be a dream scenario, and I really think it's a realistic scenario. They have the salary cap to be able to afford the long-term deal that LeVeon Bell wants. Sure, it's going to be a lot of money locked up between him and Matt Stafford, but that's what they're going to need to compete with a fully healthy Green Bay Packers and a fully healthy Minnesota Viking defense. So that is a big-time move that I definitely could see happening, and would be very exciting to see LeVeon Bell go to the Detroit Lions. So looking at the other running backs, we have Carlos Hyde. I think he's going to remain with the San Francisco 49ers. We have Jeremy Hill, who I think might try to rejuvenate his career there with the Colts, who are trying to find a new running back potentially with Frank Gore on the men's. We have Dion Lewis. I think he might go to the Houston Texans. I think the Patriots might let him walk because they already have James White and all those other, similar backs there. Texans don't really have that dynamic receiving threat out of the backfield, so I think he could be the perfect fit there. And last but not least, we have Jerick McKinnon. I don't think the Vikings are going to pay him what he's going to be worth because they have Latavius Murray under contract and you get Dalvin Cook. So I think a team like the Seattle Seahawks, who have constantly just been treating the running back position like, let's just keep throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Jerick McKinnon is like the better version of the CJ Prosise, the J.D. McKissicks, and stuff like that, the receiving backs that they've kind of been looking for. So I think McKinnon would be a very interesting option for the Seattle Seahawks. So those are the running backs. Now the wide receivers. All right, so for the wide receivers, first up is Jarvis Landry. Will he or will he not sign with the Miami Dolphins? We don't know, but I think if he does hit the open market, the Chicago Bears would be incredibly wise to go pick up Mr. Jarvis Landry to help out their franchise quarterback there in Mr. Trubisky. They need... they have everything ready. Just go and get some weapons. Just copy what the Philadelphia Eagles did, and I think that they could have a lot of success in the NFC North next year. So I think Landry is a great fit. Plus, it really adds a dimension to the Bears wide receiving core that they don't have. Even if they go after maybe Calvin Ridley in the NFL draft, still a top priority will be trying to land a top wide receiver like Jarvis Landry. Some other wide receivers, we have Jordan Matthews. I think maybe reuniting with Andy Reid in Kansas City could be a smart play. I think, you know, when it all comes down to it, I'd rather Jordan Matthews and pay Jordan Matthews than maybe Albert Wilson. I think Marquise Lee might go to the Raiders. John Gruden trying to get more wide receiver help, as it looks like Michael Crabtree could be out of his way there. Not official, so I'm not going to really incorporate here with the free agency predictions. We have Josh Gordon, who I think will remain with the Cleveland Browns. We have Paul Richardson, a deep threat. I think that the Baltimore Ravens would be a tremendous spot here. Just get younger for that deep threat role. Let Mike Wallace hit the free agency. He's 31, 32. Bring in a guy like Paul Richardson that's 25, 26 in that range and still keeps that dimension to your off. Then we got Sammy Watkins, who I think is going to take all the success that he had with that prolific Rams offense. He's not going to get paid as much with the Rams as he would if he hit on the open market. He's going to go get paid, and I think the Cleveland Browns are going to be the team that pay him. Having Sammy Watkins there with Josh Gordon, with Corey Coleman, that is a very formidable wide receiver core. Plus, bank on Sammy Watkins being able to stay healthy and live up to the potential that he was when he was coming out of Clemson and got drafted by the Buffalo Bills. We also have a couple other wide receivers. We have Terrell Pryor. I think a team like the Jets might be a team that want to take a gamble on him and see if he can rekindle that Cleveland Browns form. They're on the Browns. And last but not least, we have Tyrell Williams, which is, I think he's definitely a low-key wide receiver that not a lot of people are thinking about. I think this would be a tremendous time for the San Francisco 49ers to go and get Jimmy Garoppolo more weapons, because obviously with Garcon, he's a little bit older. You have the deep threat in Marquise Goodwin. Who else? Who else can be that guy? I think Trent Taylor could be the eventual slot replacement for Pierre Garcon, but I think a big-bodied speedster like Tyrell Williams, 6'4", the guy that can run, would be a tremendous pickup for the 49ers. Next up, we got to talk about the tight ends. All right, and now we're moving on to the tight ends, and I think starting out, Jimmy Graham, the Jets would be a tremendous spot for him to land. They have the cap to pay him. They don't have a clear tight end one, and they're definitely one of the teams that's going to be looking at drafting a young quarterback. And for a young quarterback, there's no better weapon to have than your safety net at the tight end spot, and I believe that that can be Jimmy Graham for whoever they decide to draft. Look at the other tight ends. You have Cameron Brate. I think he's going to remain with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think his chemistry with Jameis Winston is too valuable for them to say, well, oh, we got O.J. Howard. Let's kind of move on. I think they're going to retain him. Tyler Eifert is going to go back to the Bengals. I think they're going to cash in on the fact that if he can stay healthy, he is a top 5 tight end, and he already has that chemistry with Andy Dalton. And last but not least, we have Trey Burton. I really hope the Philadelphia Eagles can keep him. He's the guy that threw the touchdown pass to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl. But if not, he's going to go back home. He's a Florida Gator to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mercedes Lewis is really, really old, and I really do think a guy like Trey Burton could benefit from getting starting. He's a starter, man. He's a starter in this league, and unfortunately, he's not going to get a whole lot of playing time behind Zach Ertz. And I actually missed a wide receiver, Allen Robinson, on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Jags are going to re-sign him. I think that they'll find a way. If someone has to get cut from that herd, it will be Allen Hurns. And I think Allen Robinson, AR-15, will stay with the Jags. So that was the tight ends. Now let's quickly talk about the offensive linemen. Now there's only really 2 big notable offensive linemen that are set to become free agents. First, we have Nate Solder, the left tackle for the New England Patriots. He's not gonna re-sign. They don't really have the kind of money situation. So I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a team that very much should use their first-round draft pick at getting a tackle, because they need both a left and starting right tackle. So I think they have to go out, get the protection for Andy Dalton while their window's kind of starting to close. So they need to like step on the gas in win now mode mentality, and that is bringing a very, very capable starting tackle in Nate Solder. And the really other one is Andrew Norwell, the guard here for the Carolina Panthers, and I think the Panthers will definitely re-sign him. He's one of the best guards in football. So now we are starting on the defense, jumping to the defensive line. And we're going to start with Ziggy Ansah from the Detroit Lions. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. It looks like he's got it set to hit the market. And it's going to be going to the 2017 offseason champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just forgot that they need to get after the quarterback and get sacks to compete in the games. It's not just, bringing all the flashy guys on offense. So I think Ziggy Ansah will be a tremendous starter here. You have Robert Ayers, who's a veteran. Put Ansah on the other side along with Gerald McCoy. That is a much better front than what they had last season. And they have decent cap. They should be able to pay him decent money. He had double-digit sacks. He's a guy, when healthy, can get double-digit sacks. So I think this is a big-time must for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go and try to address. Other than that, man, there's a couple other, decent-sized names. I think DeMarcus Lawrence will go back to the Dallas Cowboys. I think there's no way they're going to let him go. But because of that, David Irving, who I'm really high on. As an Eagle fan, he's always been one of the guys that terrified me. I think if they paid DeMarcus Lawrence, there might not be enough money to go around to invest in the D-line to retain David Irving. So I think that's kind of the swap. Ziggy Ansah leaves the Lions, and a guy like David Irving goes to the Detroit Lions and plays D-tackle to kind of take over from Haloti Ngata's spot. You have Dontari Poe. I think he re-signs with the Atlanta Falcons. You have Sheldon Richardson, who I think resigns with the Seattle Seahawks. You have Julius Peppers, who, unless he decides to retire, will go back to Carolina. You have Benny Logan, who I think will resign with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you have Adrian Claiborne, the man that got so many sacks against Dallas. I can't even remember how many it was. I think he's a prime candidate to go to New England. One of those old-time deals. Guy that has never won a Super Bowl trying to win now. That seems like a team, like, the Patriots, they need to get after the quarterback a little bit better than what they have been. So that's why I think Claiborne could go there. Next up, let's talk about some linebackers. And this one pains me to talk about, but Nigel Bradham, I think he will be the top linebacker that could be available. I don't know. I think between him and Trey Burton, if you're talking and asking a Philadelphia Eagle fan, I think Bradham's the guy we should try to sign. We should have a little bit of cap to sign a guy and retain him. But when you look at the draft, I mean, we should, if we use a first-round draft pick on a linebacker, that kind of does make him expendable. So a team that really needs the linebacking help is the New York Giants, and he would, Bradham's a beast. Sometimes, not the hottest in coverage, but in terms of in-the-box tackling linebacker, sure tackler, he ticks off everything that the Giants currently lack at their linebacking core, so I think that's where he would go. We have other linebackers here. We have A.V. Williamson. I think he goes back to the Titans. Demario Davis. I think he goes back to the Jets. Zach Brown. I think he goes back to the Redskins. Navarro Bowman. I think John Gruden's not going to be stupid enough to let him go. He's going to retain him and keep them there in Oakland. And then you have Tahir Whitehead on the Lions, and I think he's very much got to re-sign with the Lions. So, not a whole lot of bold predictions there, and I hope this one doesn't come true. I would hate to lose Nigel Bradham to a divisional rival, but, I mean, that's happened, man. The last couple of years, there's been lots of interchanging of players between NFC East teams, and if Nigel hits the open market, I think it would be really, really dumb for the Giants not to try to bring him in. Now, defensive backs. So first up, we are starting with Trumaine Johnson from the Rams. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to pay what he wants. I see this, if he might go back to the Rams, but if he doesn't, I think the Colts will be a prime team to go get him. They freed up a bunch of space by moving on from Vontae Davis, and thinking getting a rangy guy like Trumaine Johnson, pair him back there with Quincy Wilson and Rashad Melvin, very much going to help them, because, you got to get Andrew Luck some weapons. He's got to be healthy. You got to try to make a run with a new coach, McDaniels perhaps. You got to shore up that defense, and especially in that secondary that could be very, very good. You have Malik Hooker, who looks like a stud. So I think a Trumaine Johnson going to the Colts makes some sense, and they definitely have the money that they could, most likely afford him. We have Patrick Robinson of my Philadelphia Eagles. I think that the Raiders might be a prime candidate for starting nickel corner there. We have Trey Boston, who had a really, really good year for the Chargers. I think the Chargers will try to re-sign him. We have LaMarcus Joyner from the Rams. I think the Rams are going to pretty much be able to just say, we're going to lose Trumaine Johnson. There's no way we're losing both Johnson and Joyner. So they're going to be able to pay LaMarcus Joyner and keep him as a safety. We have Eric Reed. I think he will lead the 49ers because, they kind of struggle to find a spot for him. They had him playing some linebacker and stuff like that. They seem set with Jaquiski Tart there at starting safety. So I think Eric Reed might move on to a team like the Houston Texans that definitely need to replenish their secondary. And I think safety, adding a guy like Eric Reed, certainly adds a dimension to their team. You also have Kyle Fuller for the Bears. I think the Bears will try to re-sign him. He had a really good season after all last offseason. There were rumors that he was trading, maybe coming to the Eagles. And last but not least, we have Malcolm Butler, the man that mysteriously just didn't get to play in the Super Bowl. I think the 49ers would be a great landing spot. They have more than enough money to pay him. They are a team that drastically needs to get better in their secondary. And they, it's going to be where they pick in the draft. If they pick 9 or 10, they might miss out on getting a really, really good corner that they like, be it Josh Jackson, be it a Denzel Ward. So I think a guy like Malcolm Butler is definitely a big-time name for a team that drastically needs to get better in their secondary. So there you go, guys. Those are my predictions for free agency. I don't know. I think a lot of them are pretty good. I mean, maybe stuck my neck on the line a little bit on the LeVeon Bell one, but we got to make it a little bit interesting. Let me know where you think some of these top free agents are going to go in the comment section below. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. This is going to be the #1 spot on YouTube when it comes to talking about football news, the draft, and everything in between. So make sure you don't miss out on any of that cool content. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.